You're listening to Castle Rock First United Methodist Church's Sermon Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Castle Rock FUMC, you can go online at fumccr.org. Thank you, and have a good day.
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. This is prevenient grace in motion. It's that grace at work before we even recognize it. Even before repentance, forgiveness was already being extended. This is that grace that goes ahead of us before we know what we have done. So I ask you, where are you being called to forgive? Not to excuse harm, but to participate in healing and in justice. The second word. Today you will be with me in paradise. Salvation is about relationships, not transactions. With me is the promise of salvation, being in community with Christ. Who are the people we assume have gone too far? How might we embody Christ's welcome to them? The third word. Woman, here is your son. Here is your mother. Jesus is changing the script yet again. Reimagining family, Jesus forms a new kind of community. Not based on blood, but love and mutual care for one another. Care while he's even in the midst of suffering. Jesus creates connection and assures that no one will be left alone. Faith lived out in relationships where we are responsible for one another. So I ask you, how are you creating communities where people are truly seen, cared for, and held? The fourth word. My God, why have you forsaken me? Honest faith makes room for lament. Jesus' voice in deep anguish, my God, why have you forsaken me? Faith never silences pain, but yet in lament we find comfort. This echoes a song that moves us from despair toward hope. Lament is not the end of the story. So I ask you this, where do we need permission to be honest with God about our pain? Our fifth word, I thirst. We see the full humanity of Jesus right here. Needing a bit of water, a physical need. It's a good way for Jesus to say, I know your pain. I know your thirst. Thirst points us toward all who lack basic water, food, and dignity. This naming of thirst is not a weakness, but a holy truth. So I ask you, where do we see thirst? In ourselves, in others, in creation? And how are we called to respond? The sixth word. It is finished. Completion, not defeat. This is not a resignation. This is not an I quit. This is the end of the suffering. God's love, his reconciling love, is revealed fully, not through domination, but through self-giving love. Here we find the work of grace is ongoing, even as Christ's act is complete. So I ask you, what is God bringing to completion in you? What work are we called to continue? And then the seventh word. Father, into my hands I commit my spirit. Even in death, Jesus entrusts himself to God. This is a faith as surrender, not control. The journey ends where it begins, in the embrace and trust that God will provide. Remember Mary's story. This is not an ending, but a transition into new life. We see that as Jesus gives this last bit of breath, into my hands I commit my spirit, something new is about to happen. So I ask you, what are we holding on to that we need to entrust to God?